You have to understand, Tomb Raider 1, it changed my DNA as a child. To say I got the gaming itch, that was it. I remember it like it was yesterday. I went to my aunt's house. She had a PlayStation 1. I had no clue what this thing was. I sat down and she turned this game on. And in front of me was this lady with guns, walking through some caves, shooting bats, shooting wolves. Not to mention, as I went into puberty later on, Laura played a big part of that. But as I sat there as a child watching this game, it radicalized my mind. For the first time as a kid, I found a reason to live. All of a sudden, I had desire. I had meaning. Growing up in the 90s was literally the Stone Age. There was no internet. There were no phones, apps, no dirty websites. There was nothing. You couldn't even download music illegally. It's a different world, okay? I grew up with dinosaurs in the backyard. But when I found Tomb Raider, it changed everything. I didn't even know there were other games for the PS1, and it didn't matter for a short time. I just wanted more of Lara Croft. You see, as a kid, I didn't have a social life. I was homeschooled. No excitement, no nothing. Me, my room, my mom and dad, who avoided me. But I had Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider was so massive in the world at that moment for so many kids like myself. And really, it was the first game that developed the DNA of so many games we play today, if you really think about it. Tomb Raider at its core is a hard game. The whole game is a big puzzle that makes you confused, going around in circles, looking for clues, looking for keys. It's a really hard game at the core. And once you achieve those little elements, guess what's next? A boss fight every few levels. It's literally the heart of every game today. This is the main theme of every Dark Souls game, but I would play for hours. It almost felt as though I lived in this game. Just walking around these first few levels, it's literally like my bedroom as a kid. I know every inch of these levels. And then when you make it to the level with the dinosaurs, I literally had a nuclear explosion in my head as a kid. I shot that T-Rex. I shot him good. There was no other game at that time where you could shoot a T-Rex. Do you understand what I'm saying? We were shooting a T-Rex in the 90s in 3D. It didn't exist anywhere else. When you really dig into the nuts and bolts of the first Tomb Raider, think about how weird and unique it was as a game. No music, just ambient drips of sound, water in the distance, bats flying around you, the echo of footprints from Lara herself, a rumble every now and then. This made the world feel genuinely ancient and real around you, and like no one had ever been there before. When you were walking around these levels, you actually felt like you had found this, but it was also teaching you about what future video games were going to be. When danger was around the corner, dramatic music would kick in. It meant something real bad was about to happen. It trained you. Everything felt so real about this game. It's probably a relatable feeling what people felt the first time they played Red Dead Redemption 2. And honestly, still even today, the game is insane. The levels were enormous for their time. In 1996, the PlayStation was barely a year old. Isn't that crazy? And this really was the industrial revolution of gaming, to be honest. It was just a time where developers were still figuring out what 3D dimensional gameplay was actually going to be. Mario had gone 3D with Super Mario 64. Oh yeah, that's another life changer. We'll talk about that later. But no one had yet imagined a cinema explosion driven by adventure in a fully three-dimensional world. But then we got Lara Croft with big guns and big, well, you know what. And that was just it. At the center of it all was Lara Croft. She was a British archaeologist with impossible athletics. No one thought different that she could jump 20 feet. That's why 7 million copies of that game were sold worldwide. And that was in the 90s. This was unheard of. You may not think that's a lot now, and it's not compared to nowadays. But for a new game on a new console with the lead character being a lady, the times were a-changin'. The enemies in Tomb Raider weren't just obstacles. They were awesome. They stuck with you, especially if you were a kid. They were storytelling tools. They were just ridiculous. Just look at the wolves in the Peruvian levels. They weren't evil. They were just animals protecting their territory. But really the first time anyone had fought wolves in a game. Think about that. It made the world feel alive rather than just some constructed level trying to get through a maze. There was danger. There was action. And honestly, you might not know this or believe it, but it was a little scary. This was all new. But when you got to the human elements in Tomb Raider later on, the mercenaries, these guys had names, motives, and reoccurring appearances. Larson Conway actually shows up multiple times throughout the game. You get to know him, and that repetition builds a genuine sense of tension. He was a persistent threat with a personality. He was cocky, crazy, but a little dim too, you could tell. And clearly, out of his depth dealing with Laura. That dynamic was genuinely entertaining. Pierre Dupont was the same idea. What a great name. A rival Tomb Raider chasing the same prize. He'd appear, take some shots. You'd be like, what was that? This guy genuinely scared me as a kid. He would run away after shooting you. It was a cat and mouse game. And this definitely had never been seen in a game. You have someone show up that you can shoot at, and then they disappear. And then they come back. It's crazy. They don't even do that now. And then you finally get to gun him down in one of the craziest freaking levels in gaming history, by the way. But the craziest one has got to be Skater Boy. He doesn't even have a name in the game. He was literally just given this name by gamers. He's just another mercenary in the game, but he's so unique and weird, but such a perfect fit for the time. He dressed in typical skateboarder clothes, rides around on his skateboard, and he's actually quite quick and dodgy when you fight him. But the biggest thing of all, he carries dual Uzis. Not to mention, this is the first time I learned what an Uzi is. I will never forget that sound, ever. All in all, this game made you feel like an explorer when you were a kid. You weren't running through flat levels. It was right there in front of you. You were in it. Not to mention the wildlife all around you with the animals. Wolves, bears, gorillas, crocodiles, dinosaurs, random mutated animals. We have no clue what they were even to this day. The game didn't care. You just shot them. But that stuff evolved over the years into the next Tomb Raiders as well. But Laura herself, she's iconic. And the first Tomb Raider really just has a place in your heart. It's almost like the other side of the card with being a kid in your favorite cartoons or Pixar movies growing up. You can recite them, you know them. They're just a good fuzzy feeling. That's what Tomb Raider is to a lot of us millennials. So keeping it short, keeping it sweet, Tomb Raider 1 is still an amazing game. And now that they've remastered it, it's even better. But I still like to go back to the old brick and mortar, literally, of what Tomb Raider 1 was. So let me know what you think. Did Tomb Raider change your life as well? It definitely changed mine. And I still go back to it every year just to play it. Picking my favorite levels, shooting my favorite characters, and really, just hearing the echoes of the tunnels. I love them. Take care.